Hello everybody. In this requested video, I'm going to be going over how I can execute these functions here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 different functions here inside of Excel. It's a listener request or viewer request, and I'm going to do it inside of Excel, and I'm just going to kind of go over what's been done here step by step. Not really step by step. I'm not actually going to be putting it in there because it's already done. I already pretty much have it here. So I'm just going to break it down. And I'm going to go ahead and start based off of what I have here inside of these shapes that I have. So the first shape I have here is talking about the demand. And I have the demand function here. So the demand, and I can remove this. So when we look at the demand function of this data set that we have here, the demand function, as you can see here, starts off with the max, and then I'm gonna take these parentheses from here and I'm gonna close parentheses all the way over here. And so that's how this looks here. So I start off with the max function and I close everything within these two parameters here. Then as you can see here, I go to the round and I make sure that I close the round off, which will be here. Okay, so the round will start here right at these parentheses and I close it here. Now it's very important to understand that these parentheses come first in a way, so that way you can make sure they're closed off at the right point. Now I just go ahead and do what we have here. So as you can see, I'm using this round function, and it takes a number here, and what we're going to be doing is we're going to be taking that number and we're going to be inverting the normalizing the random number. So just to break this norm.inv function, this actually is a function that's been around since Excel 2010, and basically what it is a normal distribution, and so the function calculates the inverse of the cumulative normal distribution function for a supplied value of x, and a supplied distribution means and standard deviations. Now the norm.inv function takes three parameters. When I put my mouse over it, you'll be able to see it. So let's say I put my mouse, I'm just going to click my mouse right here. You can see it takes a number, which is this first parameter, and we use the random number for that. Then you see it takes the mean here, which we're using right here, the mean, and we're going to be using the we're using N1 for that, and that's going to be the slope. And then over here, we're going to actually multiply that by A2, which is the price, plus N2, which is the intercept. Then it takes the standard deviation, which is here, and then that standard deviation is, we have that over here, so we don't have to worry about that. And those are the attributes, those are the arguments that the norm.inv takes. And here's the norm.inv here, that's that function. The round function right here is taking in that, plus is taking in this 0. And this final 0 actually goes with the max here. So that's the breakdown of this. All right, so the second one we want to look at is the quantity. So when I'm looking at the quantity here, let me go up here. So as you can see here, we have Q, but we also have the quantity Q over here inside of the cost. So we have this quantity here that we want to be able to calculate right there. So what we do here is we go ahead here inside of the quantity cell, and we want that to be randomized, so that way the quantity can be different for each one. And basically we're going to use the random between function, and we're going to put that random between 40 and 100. So that way, as we drag this down, we'll just get a random quantity between 40 and 100. So now we are able to use this quantity for each individual function that we're going for. So once we have that quantity, okay, so I take that quantity and I put it in there, right? So I put this function in there, just like I did, just like we have here with the demand, okay? Once we have that function in there, basically we take this little green dot right here, this green box, and we drag it all the way down so it can do all the calculations. And once I'm done with this quantity, I'm going to do the same thing. I'm just going to drag it all the way down. And then watch when I release it, it's going to give me a random number for each. And as you can see, it randomized each one of those numbers. So the third thing that I want to be able to do is this revenue function here. And the revenue function is actually pretty straightforward. So we have the revenue times revenue equals the price times the minimum of Q and D. And remember, Q is the quantity. So really all I need to do here in this revenue function, and this is the revenue R1, just as it says, the revenue equals price, which is price here, right? And then that's going to be multiplied, as you can see here, that's going to be multiplied times the minimum, of E2. So let's see what E is. E is the quantity right here, and F2. So we have F2, which is the demand. And so we take that. We don't have to lock anything down because it needs to change based on the quantity, and it needs to change based on these values. So we don't really need to change anything or lock anything down. So what we're going to do is after we complete this equation, right, we're going to click enter. And then what we do is drag this little green box all the way down, just like what we did with the other ones. And it's going to go ahead and calculate that for each one of the quantities. Each one of the revenues, sorry. So that was the revenue. And now here for the next one we're going to do, it's going to be, let's see, the cost. We'll do the cost of bread here. All right, so the cost of bread, again, that's pretty straightforward. It equals the quantity, or let's see what we have. We have the cost times the quantity. So what we're going to do here is the cost times the quantity. Right now we do have the quantity in place. So as you can see, the quantity is based off of this here, okay? So the quantity is based off of E2 in this one, but when I drag it down to do all the other equations, I don't want this to simply be 2.5. I really don't want a constant in here this way. I'd rather base this constant on a cell. So what I'm going to do is show you how to lock it down like I said before. So after I click equals, I'm going to highlight this 2.5, and basically this cost, I have all the constants over here. Everything that doesn't change, I put it over here. So what I need to do here is just select this cell, because that's going to be the 2.5. I select that cell. Okay. Now I go ahead and I put a $sign here. I put a $sign here. And now I can click enter. And now I get the exact same number based off of the, based off of the new calculations and new random numbers. So now all I need to do is drag this little green box. Let me remove this right here. So now all I need to do is drag this green box, and what you'll see is it's going to do all the calculations for all those other ones. And there you have it. And as you can see, it's locking each one of those down, and each one of these is still N8. It's not changing like these are changing here. So far, we have our cost of bread. We have our demand. That's done. That one's done. We have our, let's see, we have our revenue done. We have, let's do the SR. Okay. So the SR is going to be right here. So SR equals SP times max D minus Q, max Q minus D. And then we're going to put that 0 there. So basically what I'm looking at here in the SR, let me remove this now. That's our 5th one. In SR, we're looking at N7, and N7 is the salvage price. As you can see, the salvage price. And then we have times, that's going to be here, times max. And then we have E2. which is the quantity, subtract F2, which is the demand. All right, so then comma 0. Once I'm done with that, I hit enter, right? And so now all I need to do is take this one since that one's done. I'm sorry, it's over here. Take this one since that one's done. And I'm just going to color this so we could see, you know, that this one relates to this. So I'm going to color this cell by selecting the cell. And I'm going to go ahead and give it some sort of color like that. And then I can just go ahead and drag that down so it can do the equation or the calculation on all of those cells here. And as I change these things, you'll see this profit versus quantity chart. It's changing based off of the values here. So right now, let's see, we have this cost of lost profit. So when we look at the cost of lost profit, it's basically the same as all the other ones. And it's basically straightforward based off of this equation. So when we want to put this inside of Excel, basically we go to the cost of lost profit cell, which is here. And then what we're going to do is we're going to say LC, lost profit, which is N9. So I'm going to go over here to, let me show you where that is. I'm in, and then we go all the way down here to 9. So that's the lost profit right here. Okay. And because the lost profit is the same across the board, I put it over here where all my constants are, so I can always have access to it. So that's going to be constant. So I'm really locking that down with this $n $9 times the max, and then I have the demand and minus the quantity, right? And then 0. So once I get that, I'm going to click enter. And now again, I'm just going to take this and drag this all the way down. So I'm going to change this color, and I'm dragging this down. You don't have to change the color. I'm just doing it for demonstration purposes. And so that one's done, and I can just remove this. And now we got rid of that one. And now for the final one, I want to look at this profit here. So the profit is interesting in that we can actually consolidate this a little bit. So with the profit, we can see that the profit equals P times min QD, right? So P times min QD. If you look at P times min QD, you'll notice that's also the revenue here. So really all I need to do is take the revenue. Okay, so that's going to be the revenue. And then we have SP times max minus max Q minus D, and then 0. So I'm going to take that. And that's going to be the SR. As you can see, it's the same as the SR. So really, those first two is revenue and the SR. Okay. So as you look here, you'll notice how the profit is G2, right? So G2 is the revenue. I2 is the SR. So G2 revenue plus SR minus H2. So what's H2? H2 is the CQ. So you can see this equation here. So this is C times Q, which is the same as the cost of bread. So that's the CQ here. So that's going to be here in H2. So that's CQ2 minus J2. Okay, so when I say minus J2, you'll notice that's the LC. So this is where we're getting that LC right here. That's the minus LC. And when we look at LC itself, you'll notice it is that same equation here. Okay. So this is why we simplified by saying G2 plus I2 minus H2 minus J2. Because we instead of typing this all out, we already did those calculations. So all we did was say, okay, this is the profit plus this right here, right? Minus this right here, minus this right here. And since we already had those calculated, we simply used them again. So the last part is the cost of lost profit, which is here. And then we have this one over here, which is the cost of bread. Then we have this over here, which is, this is going to be our SR, right? And then we have our revenue over here. And that's why we did it this way here. Now we don't have to lock anything down because these all exist within the same row. And we don't need to lock any constants down. So after you hit enter, I'm going to change the color here. You just drag it all the way down. And there you have it. So now we were able to complete all of these different functions using some common sense plus some data that we already have, like the slope, the intercept, and we have our constants here for the standard deviation. We have our salvage price, we have our cost, we have our lost profit, cost, and then we have our CQ, cost and quantity. And then you can easily plot that onto a chart, so every time something changes, you can see how everything is changing, depending on how you want to plot this. So there you have it. Thanks for the question. And for those of you who have any more questions, you can go ahead and leave them in the comment section below. And make sure you subscribe. And I'll see you guys next time.